How's it going, everybody? So in this video, I just want to talk about the importance of gratitude. Okay, so um, listen, I notice a whole lot of people that seem to always be suffering in life and always be struggling. They're constantly complaining about the things that they don't have, and they're constantly complaining about how their life is not good and how there's no opportunities for them. And what's interesting is these people always find themselves in situations that directly reflect this mindset. And it seems like the more that people complain about what they don't have, the more things they don't have. The more they complain about how bad their life is, the worse their life seems to get. And conversely, I notice the people that seem to have the most genuine gratitude. And when I say that, I mean they're not trying to fool themselves, right? They're not trying to convince themselves of gratitude, but they're genuinely feeling it. They tend to have a whole lot more in life, or at the very, or else they're just happier with less, right? Now, I've watched a lot of interviews with some of the most successful people in the world, and I have a lot of friends that work directly with very rich and successful people. And I know people that work as bartenders, and they're talking to millionaires, while they're serving them drinks and they're drunk and they're talking about their life and stuff. And you hear a lot of unique perspectives, particularly from the bartenders, because when they're under the influence of alcohol, these people tend to just tell you their whole life story. And what's interesting is, many people will try to, so there's a lot of opportunities involved with money, but essentially money does not equal happiness. And there's half of the world's millionaires can be extremely happy, whereas half of the world's millionaires can be extremely miserable. More money, more problems. But it's your perspective, and it's what you do with that success or that money or what have you that is going to directly influence your happiness. And anyway, the fact of the matter is, your experiences directly influence your perspective, and your perspective directly influences your experiences. And so many people don't understand, like, the way that they see the world is directly shaped by everything they've experienced their entire lives. And that's why, if you notice, some people, no matter how hard you try, you just cannot get through to them. And many other people, are completely open to new thoughts and new actions. That's just simply because for some reason, the majority of their life, they're influenced a certain way, in which makes it harder for them to accept new ideas, because their experience directly contradicts everything that you're trying to tell them. And so essentially, some people, for whatever reason, live the majority of their lives with this idea that, that there's not enough in the world, or that they're not enough, or that, they're never doing good enough. Maybe their parents are always complaining about not having enough during life, or we're always complaining about their child not being enough. Whatever the case, these influences of scarcity and inadequacy, these tend to stick with you. Whatever perspective your parents were molding in you growing up, it could stick with you, depending on how the child interpreted that. So, you either have conformists, or you have nonconformists. So you have rebellion, where the child's like, no, I'm not going to, take on this ideology. They rebel against, like, for example, if they're raised Christian, like, the child might turn out to be a extreme atheist or something, later on. Or if they are raised vegan, they might turn out to be like one of the extreme carnivore dieters later on, as a rebellion against their parents and their upbringing. But others may just completely take on this ideology, and when they get to be older, they continue living the same life that their parents kind of laid out for them during childhood. And so, yeah, I mean, this goes for really any belief system, But yeah, so like, you know, especially when it comes to insecurities and things, you notice a lot of people, they have extreme mental issues, social anxiety, and troubles expressing their emotions and things. Like, all of this has to do with how your parents taught you to deal with your self-esteem, or taught you to deal with your emotions. Like, did you get beaten every time you cried in a grocery store? Or were you, you know, comforted in your time of need? You know, some people expect to be comforted every time they have an emotional outburst, you know, so maybe they're overly comforted. The point is, how your parents reacted to your actions growing up directly influences how you deal with them as an adult. So, yeah, so like this whole thing with gratitude, you know, a lot of people, they feel like their life experience is the truth, and nothing that they do can change their thoughts or their life. They think that what they have is what they're always going to have, or they think that who they are is who they're always going to be. And people don't realize that who they are is directly shaped by everything they've experienced, and who they are is directly shaped by the thoughts that they allow to live inside their head. People don't understand, you know, the life you live is like, the way you see life is existing in your head, and only in your head, because how you see life is completely different from how other people see life. Like, everybody, and I know this sounds like cliche and it's always talked about, but people don't like embody the importance of this. We all have a unique feeling, like we're literally existing in different worlds, basically, and it's just fascinating to me. So, yeah, I mean, I guess this is like my morning brainstorm, I'll call this. But everyone's existing in completely different realities, essentially. I mean, you could say, you know, objective reality is, you know, consistent, you know, but how we experience that reality is completely different. That's a fact. You know, like life and matter and things, like they're all run by scientific laws, but how we experience these scientific laws, okay, this is why, like, some people go on, you know, believing in falsehood, and other people go on believing in things that are true. But then again, you got to kind of ask, like, are these things actually false? Or, you know, is it that we're living through subjective lenses and we can't tell what's actually real or what's actually false? Anyway, it's a very deep rabbit hole to go down, but this is fundamental for developing empathy, and this is fundamental for developing, you know, your truest potential, and for actually living the life that you actually want to live. Is understanding that the life we're living is, we're either, like, we can be at the cause, we can create what we want, but we have to understand how, like, why does everybody think life is happening to them? Why does everybody think that their perspective is the right perspective? And it's because these people are not aware of where our perspective comes from and how it's created. And that is the defining factor between, what would you say? Like, I guess you could say enlightenment. I think this is all that enlightenment really should be, is understanding, like, hey, you know, this is the facts of our self-image, our persona, our beliefs, and dogma, and all these things that come with it. This is how our entire world is created in our heads. So leave your question, comments down below. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you got out of this, because, yeah, it's kind of out there.